Blue Beetle, the brand new movie from DC Studios, DCU, the DCEU, DCEU. And it stars Zolo Maraduena and George Lopez and two people that are really good actors. And then, you got the rest of the cast who I think is solid. They're not like huge standouts, but it's solid. And I think the main attraction here is DC because this is gonna make a lot of money, and it's not gonna bomb because DC, the most not confusing thing in the world. Anyway, this movie's a solid outing from DC. DCEU, I don't know. I walked into this film not having high expectations, and while the movie didn't soar above and beyond what I was expecting, I can definitely say that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the experience. I do think it's a little unfortunate that this is not doing well at the box office because I would say there is fun to be had. There are some really fun action sequences. I mean, the action is solid by itself, but, it's entertaining, so I'll give it that. And, the theater that I was in, and by the way, this kind of goes along with the bombing box office thing, it's evident that this is going to bomb. I mean, the opening, man, awful. But there was 4 people in the theater. Great. And Zolo Maraduena was great as the protagonist. He was able to become the character of Jaime Reyes, and it felt like he was that character instead of someone playing the character, which I thought was really neat. He can't do any better than me, obviously. He had a lot of charm to him, like me. See this? And his screen presence was a lot of fun. He was interesting and made the movie better. George Lopez was excellent here. He was a standout. Some of the funniest moments in the entire movie were from him. I got a lot of people. There's only one person, but one person, a lot of his jokes, they were like screaming in the theater. They were laughing louder than the movie. So that was great. And like I said, the rest of the cast did a solid job, but those are the 2 main standouts. And I also think the CGI was better than I expected it to be. Obviously not as good as The Flash, like I said, but there weren't too many times where I was really noticing the CGI, where I was like, okay, that's CGI, and it felt more like, realistic. It wasn't too realistic. There were times where I'm like, what is wrong with that suit? But other times I was like, okay, this is kind of solid. But the score, it's booming in the theater. It's such a vibe. It was awesome. The score is one of the best parts of this entire film. I thought it was great. I also think the action sequences are pretty good. They're not entirely original, but they're still fun. I noticed one action scene towards the end, copy of Spider-Man Homecoming, but I don't know. I don't care because it was still kind of fun. I didn't find myself necessarily bored during the action scenes, and the 4 people I was with seemed to be really into it. Now, here's the big thing. If you are someone who's kind of burnt out on comic book movies and you're just done with superhero movies, I'm not sure if this is the movie that's going to win you back over. Movies like Across the Spider-Verse are so different, and those are the movies that win people back over. This movie, it's kind of what you've seen before. It's just, it doesn't do anything entirely original. And I also think that Susan Sarandon plays a very throwaway villain. She's not memorable or good, and she becomes super dumb, and she's pretty much yelling at people the entire movie. And I was actually pretty shocked at how dumb they made her character by the end of the movie. It was so different from the rest of the movie. She wasn't the smartest character for the rest of the movie, but by the end it felt like she knew nothing, and she was kind of falling into all of the traps. So it was just okay, this is just for convenience. You should make the movie more, streamlined, I hate mispronouncing names, but there's another villain, and he was at least a little more interesting than Susan Sarandon's villain, but he was still he was fine. They gave him this backstory that didn't entirely click for me, so I don't know. It was fine. However, the movie has so many just entirely great standout sequences. The scene where Jaime gets possessed by the scarab leans more into the horror genre. That's the best scene of the entire movie, in my opinion. And it's just I thought it really worked. It combines bits of comedy and horror, and then it was pretty neat. It got me on the edge of my seat. And that scene following it pays homage to Iron Man. It's not a complete copy, because if it was a copy, man, that would be awful. But I don't think it's a copy. It paid homage to Iron Man, and I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a fun scene. The person next to me was laughing a lot, and the movie can also get somewhat emotional. It was actually a lot of people I saw were by the end of the movie. And I think if you've seen the movie, you might know what I'm talking about. There's a scene that's like a callback to something earlier in the movie, and then something happens, and it was interesting. I enjoyed that stuff. The humor is very hit or miss, but when the jokes land, I thought they really landed, and they had me cracking up. But honestly, when they didn't land, it was kind of awkward, and I did start to roll my eyes. Overall, Blue Beetle isn't an absolutely game-changing superhero movie, as it can be held back by a super generic main plot and weak villains, but I think the overall experience is worth supporting in a theater, and I think this one could surprise a lot of people, as it has a surprising amount of heart to it. Blue Beetle, 3 stars. I think this one kind of fits right in the middle of the DC movies this year. I think I like Flash more than a lot of people. I didn't love it, but I still liked it a lot, and I enjoyed this one too. So DC having not the best year in terms of movies, but in terms of all of the behind the scenes drama, having a great year. Am I right? Great year.